Exciting times are ahead, my friends. Hot lists on the Orion terminal via Orion Pool. If you want to check this article out, you head over to blog.orionprotocol.io/pool/hot. Holochain really is the Dow Jones. Holochain right now is trading in relative parity to the Saudi break-even point. It's trading in relative parity to gold itself. Look at the slide in Microsoft. You know, these are minimal regressions. But as the bottom floor begins to accumulate, wherever movement is had, now really what you're looking for is that decoupling, not just from Bitcoin, not just from Ethereum. Remember, HoloFuel is still projected ahead. Holochain is legitimately the Dow Jones of its generation. There are a few projects that can say they will have integrated into many strata of commerce, all whilst offering the dynamicism of its robust utility. As a currency, it's always had the vision to succeed. It will reflect the overall value and health of the crypto market in years to come. Its purpose built and asset backed. Holo is its own living, breathing ETF. Its abilities are widely lauded by governments and esteemed professionals. We have decoupled. So today I want to discuss something that's really special, something that's often overlooked, something you'll never hear in a price prediction. Let's take it all the way back to October 9th of 2018. This is a quick 5-minute read written by yours, Jean M. Russell, or Jean, my apologies, my sincere apologies. Beyond the GDPR, Holo Vault, delivering on self-sovereign identity for distributed applications. Holo may have been the first internet company that was actually excited about GDPR. Data portability and provenance isn't a hurdle to overcome for some apps. Quite the opposite. Holochain's architecture makes compliance a native feature. Guess what? It's 2021 right now, and they're the only one who's gotten that native feature patented into the core of the technology and the architecture of the software. Isn't that something? So, as written, we want to go further. So let's dive in, shall we? Post-blockchain technology, value-stable cryptocurrency. If you get a chance, one thing that was initially, criticized about the project was the large, circulating supply, or the large market cap, so to speak, forgive me. And if you dive into the currency paper, that's one thing that's actually part of the stabilizing feature of the technology. But let's carry on. I just wanted to, drop you a gem there. For those of you tuned in, go take a look in that direction, because I'm not going to have you sit through 9 minutes of price prediction where I repeat the same thing over and over. Sometimes it's nice to share the research and let you enjoy some of the things that I enjoy, which is, someone else's perspective. This person has delivered, an excellent written piece. To unpack how that works, let's dig into the progress on personal ID and data sovereignty. If you get a chance, they're actually working with, not this person in particular, but Holochain. Holochain is, in fact, working with another project, or not. How can it? I have to word this, respectfully of all parties. Holochain is serving in an advisory capacity to BlueSky. BlueSky, if you get a chance, I'll dive into it. It's in Jack's Twitter. Right now, they're funding a small independent team of up to 5 open source architects, engineers, and designers to develop an open and decentralized standard for social media. The goal is for Twitter to ultimately be a client of this standard. So, you're going to hop into that thread. Nope, that's me. Never mind. But when you dive into that thread, excuse me, that's where you're going to sort of get an idea as to what they're looking for, what they're working towards. They're getting in on the action. And again, I'll go into this at a different video, but I just wanted to focus on GDPR compliance, because again, they're the only project who's got it in their first layer and patented in their first layer, as far as I'm concerned, as far as what I've seen, read, and heard. You're welcome to challenge that. I'm not gonna, rebuttal anything of that. If there is, great. I'd love to know and compare and contrast and just understand, because this is a fast changing space. But to my knowledge, Holo remains the only, crypto, software and technology that can, satisfy, GDPR compliance and regulatory expectations. And it's also a far better standard in comparison to Papita. So that's why this article is really special. I just wanted to throw it back in time and take you to somewhere special, something that I had come across like 5 months ago. So in addition to delivering the Holo hosting infrastructure and setting the wheels in motion for other asset-backed currencies, we are tackling head-on the challenges posed to distributed internet projects more broadly. Among the most pressing of these is how to handle online identity. After all, so many of the projects we experience with our current net infrastructure center on the importance of personal agency and data sovereignty. We, the participants of the internet, keep getting locked on the wrong side of the identity vault door. Holo wants to change that. Before I say how, I want to provide the larger contextual picture. I wrote first about Holochain and identity in the post on Thrivable Technology. If you want to check it out, you know what? This is going to be a longer video because we're going to read that right after this. I'm all for it. We're going to check that out after. These are key. I like the way this guy writes. I enjoy it. I wrote first about Holochain and identity in the post on Thrivable Technology. These are some key inquiries for those of us seeking technology that fosters greater freedom. 1. What is the infrastructure that respects our privacy and at the same time enables enough transparency to foster trust? What design allows us ownership and control of our data and at the same time creates and cultivates a commons beyond the individual? What connects us with others to share and learn and grow together as a community and also protects us by creating boundaries and barriers that give us a sense of safety and identity? What rewards people for sharing and being a contributor and does so without extracting wealth from those sharing it? That's a big issue when we think of, things like Bitcoin. You can sing and hum the gospel, you can drink the Kool-Aid, but at the end of the day, when you look at something like Bitcoin, and mind you, I've been waiting to dive in on Bitcoin. You might have seen some of my threads on Twitter, but you really got to see Bitcoin for what it is. It's a medium of exchange with, a little bit left in it, just enough to retrace the next person coming in. And its major caveat is the fact that there's no chargebacks realistically. So again, I don't want to take away from this. I want to keep reading this. I can dive in on Bitcoin another time. So 5, what creates trust to lubricate human interactions and for all that does not become administratively burdensome? Start to really study the projects in the space. Holochain is a great reference for other people that are new to market only because of the team behind the project and how structured they've been in terms of their rollout and pivoting where they've needed to pivot to get to this point. So there's a reason why people who've been, following the project since 2018 have been following the project since 2018. I'm not one of them. I'm fairly new to the project, but it's the more you come across, the more you start to appreciate. And I really appreciate this article. So these are broad questions that broach the tensions we hold in building technology using the lessons learned from the internet of today. In April, I posted specifically about identity, digging deeper into what is needed after reviewing some philosophy and history on identity I wrote. Again, if you want to check it out, it's right here, Thrivable Technology. Or actually, hold on, my apologies. Holochat's identity, and that's a 6-minute read. I think it's absolutely worth it. So with self-sovereign identities, many are looking to blockchain as an opportunity to escape the centralized control of these permissions and provide self-sovereign identities. Yet one core thread of identity is continuity, and token-centric blockchains are organized around the history of tokens, but not about any continuity of agents controlling these tokens. Doesn't identity need to go hand in hand with the reputation that comes from an ability to hold agents to account for their actions over time? Self-sovereign identity creates the closest specs to what we envision for identity in Holo applications. I want to explore a bit more about self-sovereign identities before we demonstrate how Holo Vault manages this complexity. And now I want to deliver. Sorry. That's what I want to do. Okay. I want to explore a bit more about self-sovereign identities before we demonstrate how Holo Vault manages this complexity. Holo Vault is our identity tool.
a secure way of handling identity and the various personas one manages across applications. Example given, Kalia, aka Identity Woman, emphasizes the importance of self-sovereign identity. This technology will have significant implications for how people interact with governments, how people manage their relationship with businesses, how we do banking, how we manage our medical and educational records. Ooh, this is so critical. This is so critical. People, whew, that means a lot to see and read. And there's an excellent article written about, distributed IoT security for healthcare systems. It was also, I think it was reviewed, or was it written by Cornell? I'd love to post the article for you at some point, or I'll just, one day we'll sit down and read it. I think I've covered it in one of my other videos that's like 3 hours long, but I don't blame you because I never timestamped that. But this is like me, for example, I got to go get an MRI on my knee because at some point, due to reconstructive surgery, you know what, it's just time, whether that's at 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, periodically, I have to go and get a checkup. Periodically, I have to go and get an MRI and just evaluate it. But to have your medical records just all over the place, it's frustrating. Not for me, in my case, I'm fairly organized in that regard. But for some people, it's hard to get consistent treatment throughout the medical field when you move throughout the healthcare system, but your data doesn't move. And then the other thing too is, not everybody is satisfied with who's managing the MyCare systems or certain healthcare, information systems that aggregate things. So, depending on how you feel about, V.I.Es or V-Chain and some of how they distribute, healthcare, I'm not knocking them, but you have to understand there's a certain level of frustration and not being able to invest in something, in a foreign entity and have ownership or value. I don't want to just invest in your profit structure. So it's but again, not to take away from this, not to take away from the politics. This is like, as I'm reading, this is where my mind takes me. This is where I am. This is why I say, when I focus on one thing, I'm not really inherently just focused on that. Like there is multiple lanes of information that are just polarized to paint an entire picture. So let's keep going. Kalia, Identity Woman, Young, and Heather Vesant recently released a comprehensive guide to self-sovereign identity. I like this. Let me see where this is going. For them, identity is a whole new layer of the internet beyond physical data link, network transport, session, presentation, and application. Now, where did that pop up? Oh, for them, identity is a whole new layer of the internet beyond physical data link. Yeah, so we read that. Read more about self-sovereign identity using, hold on. They also cover the emerging DID open standard for interoperability. Read more about self-sovereign identity using DID on the W3C Community Group Draft Report. Many people are working on decentralized applications such as blockchain, where decentralized identifiers, DIDs, remember that, decentralized identifiers, DIDs, and the accompanying DID documents enable individuals to share abstract identifiers, DIDs, with an associated public key and a resolution endpoint. So remember at one point when we were talking about, DocuSign offering a challenge to developers to, create, sort of a DocuSign type app, that wasn't for no reason. It's because we're chugging along here. And at some point, these are opportunities. That's why there's even a app that's working on being able to do legal documents. This has been a long time coming, and this is why the people that have been doing price predictions are calling for 0.006 slides, irregardless of the blue collar person, the single mother staying at home, the people who just are who've taken on this opportunity, and they got in whenever they got in. They invested whatever they were willing to risk. But I emphasize how dangerous it is to manipulate markets and put people at risk, because this information has been widely available, and there is just utter disregard in which someone should be held contempt for manipulating a market in that sense. Because it's not like, oh, hey, I got 20,000 followers or 20 followers or a few hundred. It's, we're talking about 180,000. And we're acting like none of this information has been available. None of these correlations can be made to some of the developments that have been taking place. But instead, one has to be so malicious to call for 0.006 slides. One has to be so malicious to create a publishing firm to tie everything to Bitcoin and some kind of relevance to Bitcoin's price in relation to the market. There are 10,100 plus coins. Everything in the world does not revolve around Bitcoin. Okay? Like, I'm sorry, this is one of those things where you're going to see a proof of concept in the technology and see it integrated into somebody's CDBC. When that CDBC rolls out, that CBDC, that central bank digital currency, and people start to accept that, you know what, their money can do more than just one thing, that their money can address certain pain points and include them in the economies that excludes them. It starts with this. It starts with people seeing, some kind of integration into Twitter. Or, it could be simply the association of being part of the advisory of and whatever new digital governing laws are incorporated or adopted in this sense. There's a reason why in the DLT for good, you've got 132 projects listed, and out of the 10 of them, Holochain is one of the ones mentioned. It's patented for a reason. And again, I take us to 2018 in order to make sense of 2021. And this is why you shouldn't buy the gospel of everything revolves around Bitcoin. It doesn't. It doesn't. It just doesn't. And don't be afraid to call people out. Don't let nobody mess with your stock, your investment, where you put your money at. This isn't financial advice. But if people are going to mess with what you got, don't be afraid to put them in their place. Because if they think they can't, you know what I mean? If they want to try you, remind them. You know what the penalties are for market manipulation? In Canada, it's 2 million. It's 2 million. I don't have to play any games. That's why it's like, if you notice over time, last 3 months, it's gotten a little quiet, right? Yeah. That's what's up. So what does a service need to do in order to supply self-sovereign identity? Christopher Allen gives a brief overview of self-sovereign identity. Then he lists the basic principles for individual control across any number of authorities. Yo, I want all the smoke. I already know this is going to be a good read. I'm coming back to this at some point. You know what? That's going to be a personal read. If y'all want me to jump into this, I'm with it. It looks like a fun read. And by the way, I also double as ASMR. For those that are having trouble sleeping, I do realize that I got a deep voice that can be considered soothing. So I'm happy to help those who have trouble sleeping. Feel free to leave me in the background of ambience while you drift away and absorb and attain knowledge as you snooze. That's another way to upload information. Not a lot of people know that. I've done that in the past, but you really got to know and trust who is going to be consistent in just giving you information and not, nah, I'm not doing that to you. Holo attends carefully to these thinkers' work, and so bakes the following well-established values related to identity directly into the code. And in 2021, this was patented. Holochain, hallelujah. Let's look at what Holo Vault provides and then check off the requirement list. I like what this individual has done. Ooh, that's where you're going to go next when you click that link, and you'll be able to dive into more of the information. We having fun with this right now. So in case of FUD, you just remind them that they're just not on your level of fundamental game, okay? That's where we're at. Holo Vault stores a person's data on their own private DHT, which then shares this data between the user's devices, phone, laptop, Holo port. So other apps can request access to this data via profile spec, where each field clearly explains what the app is going to do with the data, i.e. store in their DHT or request it from the person's DHT. An expiration date can be set on the profile as well, allowing temporary or short-term access. So you don't have to remember to deny after a certain date. Holo Vault uses a distinction between a persona and a profile. Personas are long-lived and contain the actual data such as names. A profile only contains a mapping to the personal persona data. A work profile can have different data than a friend and a family profile. For example, profiles can have expiration dates where personas do not. Any app can request profile information with a profile specification. Note, not personas. The pattern of persona fields mapped to profile fields means that the person can update a persona field and any subsequent profile request will use that new data. A profile spec includes a reason for requesting each field and an expiration date. A challenge or response for sensitive data can also be used. At any time, people can use Holo Vault to do a forensic scan on any app's chain and DHT to give them confidence the app is managing your data as specified. Now see, there's self-sovereign identity criteria, and this is what Holo Vault delivers. So existence, users must have an independent existence. Identity exists independent of application. Control, users must control their identities. Very direct access and control of your identity. By the way, I know this is the first time a lot of you have seen this because we only got 764 claps. You get a chance, clap it up. Clap it up. You're going to have to log in order to clap it up. So that's the other thing too. Log in, clap it up. Transparency. Systems and algorithms must be transparent. Can see where your profile is in use and how. Persistence. Identities must be long-lived. Identity exists independent of application. Interoperability. Identities should be as widely usable as possible within a holochain ecosystem thus far. Consent, users must agree to use of their identity. Consent is a requirement, has nuance like time limits. Minimalization, disclosure of claims must be minimized. Only the information you want to share and no more. Protection, the rights of users must be protected. Identity developed for agent centricity and thus begins with agent rights. Portability, information and services about identity must be transportable. Identity agrees where you give permission for it to do so. It's time to get on the right side of the vault door. The ability to liberate our digital identity can be viewed as a step in the right direction of personal freedom and self-agency. The pseudonymization of data through GDPR and personally identifiable information attempts to move forward digital consumer rights, and it also raises concerns over its impact outside of the European Union. Perhaps this approach will prove problematic, but as we brace for its impact on our daily lives, Holo remains steadfast in providing a more organic means of change than the mandated progress of general data protection regulation. And I reiterate, it was so ahead of the game that now the rest of the world is catching up and asking, hey, Holochain, yeah, how do we do this? How do we do it right? How do we make things safer? And that's what's beautiful about this. 3 years ago, this was the conversation being had. 3 years later, the conversation we're having now is we're literally watching the same applications solve many of the problems that it's impressive, and I'm impressed. Holo Vault and personal ID is an acknowledgement of our own self-sovereignty in the pursuit to perfect its principles as we prepare for this new age of digital communications. Hold on, I like that. I'm a fan of alliteration. It doesn't matter what's written. It could be a medical journal. It could be a political document. It could be an IT security profile or something. I've always enjoyed alliteration. So, the fact that this person strung together 4 different consonants that start with the letter P, I appreciate that. Holo Vault and personal ID is an acknowledgement of our own self-sovereignty in the pursuit to perfect its principles as we prepare for this new age of digital communications. A lot of plosives, and I just appreciate that. So if you get a chance, that's the article you're going to want to, just familiarize yourself with for a quick rundown into what GDPR is and why it's special. And perhaps this is why Holochain is sitting on BlueSky's. This is why Holochain is sitting on BlueSky's advisory board, and why perhaps BlueSky is being considered for what Twitter's CEO Jack is proposing to the rest of the world. BlueSky here says it's been a long time coming, but we finally found a lead. We're currently working through details to set up the new BlueSky entity, which will operate independently from Twitter. We're excited to share more soon, and we're just going to keep giving it a rundown. Let's see, they just published the D-Web ecosystem doc from the BlueSky community discussion group, and that's available at blueskycommunity.net. You know, I'm always happy to take a dive and dig deeper. Impressive stuff, impressive stuff. Nope, that's me. So let's check it out. So where were we again? Twitter is funding a small independent team of up to 5 open source architects, engineers, and designers to develop an open and decentralized standard for social media. The goal is for Twitter to ultimately be a client of this standard. Twitter was so open early on that many saw its potential to be a decentralized internet standard like SMTP email protocol for a variety of reasons, all reasonable at the time. We took a different path and increasingly centralized Twitter, but a lot's changed over the years. First, we're facing entirely new challenges centralized solutions are struggling to meet. For instance, centralized enforcement of global policy to address abuse and misleading information is unlikely to scale over the long term without placing too much of a burden on people. Very true, very true. And you're a courageous man for acknowledging that. I've myself had to deal with some of these exploits, and you know, I don't fault, you know, Twitter for some of the issues I've had to deal with, because, you know, it's happened to me on other platforms. And, you know, I don't want to highlight what some of the issues are, but, you know, in terms of the proliferation of AI or bots, for example, I got images of 2 bots that have messaged me the same thing one after the other. And, you know, it's human surveillance, and people are using Twitter to do that. Whether that's to track people for movement and market signals, or it's to track people who might be considered, you know, dissidents, or, you know, and dissidents, I don't mean like, you know, necessarily, you know, someone who's speaking against the state. I just dissident, someone who's cognitively dissonant against something. Like if you speak out against certain companies, remember, things have switched from, you know, you're part of a republic. It's not inherently a democracy. And to some extent, it's transitioned into this crypto corporatocracy. That's a lot. That's a lot. And so, you know, if you fail to recognize that, you might be at the losing end of some of these market movements. And this is why I pay more attention to, I read the paper more than I read the charts, because a lot of what's happening at 4 a.m., 3 a.m., midnight, or 2 p.m. the day before is what's dictating the movement in price now. You know, that Telegram group that's, you know, the Orion Protocol Exchange, that's got 35,000 members in it. And they're going nuts asking about Holochain because they're looking at the price value. And you know what? 35,000, you know, Orion Protocol owners, guess what? Or, you know, OP, that Orion Protocol is trading at 653 right now. So when people start to decide, you know what, they're not moving or changing anything. But remember, those are deeper pockets. We're in a deeper space now. So when they decide to take a serious look at Holochain, there's nothing about Holochain that's expensive for them. That's just what it is. There's different tiers of traders in this space. Not everybody is a value buyer. Some people understand and they look at it as legacy transition. They'll be able to hand it down to family. Some people are here, they're going to be day traders. But even day traders are going to be holding large quantities because it is what it is. People know the inherent value and they don't want to miss up the opportunity. They know what I tell you to be true when I say that, you know, there's been, you know, a fair amount of manipulation. The Bitcoin Maxis have called for 0.06 slides. Well, guess what? We just survived 3 months of that. And patiently, we waited, and out comes the information to make it very clear how injurious, you know, it was to spread false claims about price direction. Whereas realistically, it's just coordinated, targeted sell-offs. So, you know, you can say what you want, but you've seen BitBoy almost lose his channel, right? 1.5 million followers. That had nothing to do with, you know, some of the scam work that, you know, where people make up fake WhatsApp stuff and they just spam, you know, religiously. That's not what he got caught up in. What he got caught up in was literally like, yo, is this guy grooming, you know, a large market segment into Bitcoin? And, you know, for the governments that are pushing all these CBDCs, they're asking themselves, are we really willing to be supplanted by, you know, this new antebellum mindset that was worse than, you know, on some of what our institutions were founded upon and have transitioned away from? Are we really willing to screw our population into this form of digital cotton picking? Because that's what it is. That's what Bitcoin is. It's digital cotton. And can the earth handle another 100 years of Bitcoin? And personally, I'd hate to see if that's what things are boiled down to and deduced to, because you know what the cognitive decline of the individual is when it comes to, and I hate going off on rants and tangents. I'm so sorry. It should be a lot easier to read through this stuff, but these are just where the emotions take me. Okay? This is where the emotions take me. You can't greenwash Bitcoin because guess what? You're going to source your electricity from the power grid first, and then you're going to do a remuneration of what you've, you know, saved in terms of your solar energy sources, and you're going to, you know, sell that back into the system and do, you know, sort of like this offsetting of what's been used versus what's been sold, but it's not drawing power inherently off of the solar. So, you know, again, you know, if you're gonna, I could dive into Bitcoin all day. That's all I'm saying. And, you know, that's not a personal attack at anybody. But this is like what you see peddled on YouTube all the time. And you can't sugarcoat it because people do get hurt, especially when some of the Bitcoin mining operations, you know, are creating publishing companies and literally tying everything back to Bitcoin, literally spreading the FUD like it's peanut butter, like it's marmalade, and not lady marmalade. I can't remember the lyrics. I'm not going to sing them. But I bet you thought of them. Yeah. But let's, I try not to get distracted. But that's how I feel about Bitcoin, man. Don't get had. And as more of the populace becomes educated, you're literally going to see people trying to prop up and proxy their wealth by feeding into these other, you know, smaller alt caps. And it's going to be hard for them to sort of hide that, you know, the day when there will be a day, but more people are educated to understand that Bitcoin can run red and all the other 10,101, you know, tokens and coins and digital assets can stay green. You know, there's a certain point where people put money into Bitcoin, it retraces, and they just wait for their money to go up and to get out and to never get back in. You know, it's more than just regulatory compliance. There's mass adoption. And with mass adoption, you know what comes with mass adoption? Education and information. So this right here, with this initiative that you're seeing on Twitter, that's going to address a lot of the radicalization that you're seeing in crypto spaces. It's not just a debasement of monetary policy. It's a debasement from reality. Reality in the sense where, you know what, there isn't somebody doesn't get hurt and money's just money. No, there are people in poverty who are going to be hurt if we don't do, you know, crypto in a smart and healthy way. When someone says, oh, you know what, it'd be suitable for legal tender. Well, 77% of the respondents in El Salvador, you know, they beg to differ. The shopkeeper doesn't want to accept it because guess what? You might earn a month in Bitcoin, and when it retraces, guess what? How much debt are you going to rack up trying to cover, you know, the next month of rent and meeting retail demands of the expenses to keep your shelves stocked? What do those debts look like? And when, you know, say this happened a couple of times and you're no good for a loan at your local bank, that means, yes, credit lending laws have to get a little more flexible. But when your bank is no good for it, you know, who are you going to turn to? And will that person be as flexible as a bank? Or will that person be at the other end of a double barrel, you know what? Like, there are real life consequences, and I know I'm painting it in the most damper and dim picture possible, but you have to understand, Bitcoin has never been suitable for legal tender. The whole notion to pitch it as suitable for legal tender is just so it can operate as a no chargeback type of currency. Because what ends up happening is it gets processed, it can't get charged back because you can't realistically give someone the value of what they paid. You know, hopefully, but you can only give them a quantity of what that is. But then you're the shopkeeper. Why would you tender something what it's worth? Because it went up in value. Think about how sticky that gets. One moment you had $60, you bought the item for $60, you thought about it, you saw the item, you know, that amount of cryptocurrency go up. That was actually, now it's, you know, 30 minutes later, it's $90. You're going back to the shopkeeper, and I guarantee you're returning the crap out of that shirt. Because that shirt's never going to be affixed to a rising cost in Bitcoin. So when you pay for it in Bitcoin, you have to then ascertain to yourself, that's gone. And this is considered wealth. Why would I treat it like tender? And that's one of the issues we're facing right now with Bitcoin, is how do you justify it? You can't justify it. The volatility on speculation, on something that people are just going to determine has a value, even though it does nothing and is affixed to nothing. We're gonna let that dictate the market to us? No. You don't have to buy what the wealth have used to monetarily prey on the rich, and what the rich are using to prey on the monetary, you know, on the disadvantaged. You know, people who aren't, you know, being handed down, you know, this you know, perspective on how to move within a market and during these times. Like, this is one of the reasons why I'm working on what I'm working, but you know, it's also, I had to go quiet for a while in order to let some of this stuff just develop organically. You know, if someone is going to tell you about price, I just showed you what's been around since 2018. It's not hard to find information. And if something can be done in 10 minutes where the information is repeated over and over and over, you know what? That's like a 5-minute read. It's not hard. All this is available. So if it's going to be considered technical analysis and entertainment and not, you know, financial advice, but you're saying I would set my sales targets here, sales target here, how at no point are you somewhat not, you know, liable? Where, you know, as if there's no, you know, it's just, it's very risky to say, you know, this is entertainment, this is what I would do, la, la, la. Like, you're basically encouraging a large sum of people to hedge whatever opportunity there is. And don't think that doesn't, you know, constitute as manipulation. I'm just throwing that out there. From one Commonwealth country to another Commonwealth country. Oh, man, I'm salty. That 0.006 slide was dirty, bro. It's dirty. Whew. But I'm not trying to, you know what I mean? But yeah. So again, I get on these tangents, but it's worth it because these things need to be said. These are real feelings and they need to be heard. So again, first, we're facing entirely new challenges. Decentralized solutions are struggling to meet. And mind you, like, you know, you're listening to me, you're paying attention to what I'm saying, but are you paying attention to the date, bruh? 2018, the article is talking about, you know, the GDPR compliance and meeting regulatory expectations and it being native to Holochain's protocol. 2019, this is where we are. So we're facing entirely new challenges. You know, second, the value of social media is shifting away from content hosting and removal and towards recommendation algorithms directing one's attention. Unfortunately, these algorithms are typically proprietary and one can't choose or build alternatives yet. And I can't make that shit up. There was a point, forgive me for my language, I want to say around probably 2017 to 2018, yo, I just got sick of my algorithms. I don't know what I would click, but it would just be stuck on the same, you know, like whether that was a subscription, a video, chain of videos. You know, now I just purge my caches regularly. I don't keep any history. I try to delete what I can, only so I'm able to see new content. And wherever my algorithms get sort of stagnant, you know, I've created my own RSS feeds. So I'm always seeing new stimulating information, up-to-date information. I'm not just stuck in this cloud of bullshit. because that's what the algorithms can turn into very quickly. Third, existing social media incentives frequently lead to attention being focused on content and conversation that sparks controversy and outrage rather than conversation which informs and promotes health. Finally, new technologies have emerged to make a decentralized approach more viable. Blockchain, and it's wild because, we're thinking about where COVID is right now, right? Remember, like, everything really popped off, like January 10th, January 9th, and these conversations being had like December 11th, 2019. Ain't that wild? So finally, new technologies have emerged to make a decentralized approach more viable. Blockchain points to a series of decentralized solutions for open and durable hosting, governance, and even monetization. Much work to be done, but the fundamentals are there. Some of these issues were emphasized by Stephen Wolfram in a blog post following a Senate hearing titled Optimizing for Engagement, Understanding the Use of Persuasive Technology on Internet Platforms. I'm going to go check that out later on. Oh, yeah. So recently we came across Maxis article, Protocols, Not Platforms, which captures a number of challenges and solutions, more importantly, it's reminded us of a credible path forward, hire folks to develop a standard in the open. So this is One Night First Amendment Institute at Columbia University, Protocols, Not Platforms, a technological approach to free speech. Square is doing exactly this for Bitcoin. So, you can only hope that we shift away from Bitcoin, okay? For social media, we'd like this team to either find an existing decentralized standard they can help move forward, or failing that, create one from scratch. That's the one direction one at Twitter Inc. will provide. I gotta see how long this thread is. Okay, cool. Just checking. I didn't want to be mean, but I was like, I gotta admit, I admire it because my threads are sometimes longer. So I actually appreciate the length of this thread. We'd expect the team, and my apologies to people who like Bitcoin. I know I'm supposed to be impartial and not biased, but I'm not impartial and I am biased. I dislike Bitcoin with a fervent disdain, if I may. This isn't going to happen overnight. It will take many years to develop a sound, scalable, and usable decentralized standard for social media that paves the path to solving the challenges listed above. Our commitment is to fund this work to that point and beyond. We're calling this team BlueSky. Our CTO, Parag A, will be running point to find a lead who will then hire and direct the rest of the team. Please follow our DM, BlueSky, if you're interested in learning more or joining. And that's why this was a very special moment. So in 2020, Twitter brought a small group of people together in the chat room to discuss BlueSky. This grew into a BlueSky community room, which had many more participants. But what was still invite only, now we're excited to create a discussion room open to the public. We're an independent, community-driven initiative and welcome feedback and contributions. No matter what your skill level, you can contribute to this journey. Try out an app, stand up a server, build stuff together. And it doesn't get more beautiful than this. Break down just an introduction for people that are interested in developing on the protocol for a 12-minute overview of how Holochain works. Check out Paul Dose. And, my apologies if I'm mispronouncing the name. Here you can take a quick look at what's going on, as far as Elemental Chat, Acorn, Holo Network, the launcher, Elemental Chest, Snapmail. Good things are go on, okay? And so, again, Holochain is a development framework for building peer-to-peer applications. We take a different approach for traditional cloud and blockchain, starting with the agency of individual users and working outward. Holochain applications are secure, scalable, private, and offline friendly. We invite you to try Holochain out and report your experience back to BlueSky's working group. If you want to learn more, you can go to holochain.org. This is holochain.org. And from there, you can learn more about the end-to-end open source P2P app framework. Here we'll break down what is Holochain, the solutions, projects, who's building on Holochain and use cases. And there's also some that you might not know about simply because you haven't spent as much time in the community. There is a lot happening. It's not just a hashtag. There is a lot happening. You can also get involved. You can also learn more, stay informed. And if you want to just learn more about Holochain as a foundation, or Holo itself, the distributed platform for hosting, even dive into the more technical bits of the CAL, its open source license, the intellectual property, you could also just contact them directly. I encourage some of you bigger outlets. I'd love to see who's my guy that I love seeing on Bloomberg all the time. I would love to see, and I apologize if I mispronounce his name, but David Rubenstein. I would love to see him, just sitting across from the Holo team. I think that would be an exciting interview. That's just me. That's the nerd in me. Forgive me. But if dreams could come true, I would love to see them having, a cup of coffee, just discussing, Holochain and how it stands to assist, in users regaining that agency, addressing the issue in regards to a loss of agency. That's just me. In the next video, what we're going to dive into is thrivable technology, because, this might be from 2017, but I like the way this person writes. And we're going to dive right into, the next one when we get a chance. The next video, before we cover anything else, before we jump back into Twitter, we're going to read thrivable technology. What are the tools that enable a more thrivable world to emerge and evolve? Because the way Jean, or Jean, I'm sorry. I just really appreciate the writing style and the flow, and how the vast quantity of information is surmised in a concise manner that's easy to digest. I wish the articles were longer, but I'm not greedy. I'm thankful for the time that this individual has put into their craft and the communication is excellent. I'm appreciative. Whew. So thank you. I appreciate y'all for your time. And again, if y'all got questions, you can find me on Twitter. Y'all know what it is. And this is where I be at. Your digital asset analyst, crypto consulting. Thou shalt not spread the FUD. Kryptonian 316, here to do business and nothing more, infrastructures and ecosystems. Thank you for tuning in. And we can definitely enjoy discussing more. Ooh, we're not done yet. I just wanted to make it kind of clear what I was saying. There's a fair bit of these guys, a whole lot of retweet action. This thing. Okay, now I gotta go find my guy. Super amazing person to follow. So yeah. So looking forward to a decentralized Twitter. It's been a long time coming, but we finally found a lead. We're currently working through details to set up the BlueSky entity, which will operate independently of Twitter. We're excited to share more soon. So are they using Holochain? No word yet. A bunch of different Web3 projects are part of the BlueSky advisory working group, including Holochain. Who knows, they might just define a common standard and build support the standard into centralized Twitter. Apparently, it's something Jack had been waiting to do for a while because he believes in decentralization. So on one level, it's something they're doing because Jack wills it. They are partnered with Holochain. No, they haven't decided what sort of technology to use. Maybe they'll develop their own. I'm just part of the advisory working group. But there's quite a number of Web3 projects in that group. Some interesting ones you've probably never even heard of, like Spritely project. Y'all know me. And so, okay, yeah, that's true. Didn't hear. Sounds very interesting. Thank you kindly for sharing. You can also use Mastodon. I signed up ages ago with social.coop, but never did manage to get in. Haven't had the time to figure out why. So, I mean, and it's like a bit of a cliffhanger. I agree with you, Dave. I know I'm part of the advisory working group, and I don't even know who it is, for crying out loud. So there's a lot going on, and there's so much going on. It's hard to keep up, but you know, I'm appreciative of every little bit that gets shared because guess what? Now I get to keep my nose to the trail and just tune into whatever happens. I am so for the growth of crypto, social web, distributed programming, or Spritely, social worlds await. Press starts to take back the net. Spritely is a project to level up the federated social web. It builds on our experience from co-authoring ActivityPub, the largest decentralized social network on the web to date, while applying lesser known but powerful ideas from the object capability security community. So, Spritely, social worlds await. Press start to take back the net. If you're using a Mac, your start button is going to be your space bar. If you're using Windows, yeah, just say your space bar. Spritely is a project to level up the federated social web. It builds on our experience from co-authoring ActivityPub, the largest decentralized social network on the web to date, while applying lesser known but powerful ideas from the object capability security community. Spritely consists of a number of modular components bringing new and rich features from distributed programming to decentralized storage to virtual worlds. Better worlds await because better worlds are possible. We all deserve freedom of communication. Why not make the journey fun in the process? Got my attention. I'll come back. I'll definitely check this out. Hey, okay, now I feel you. And so, again, you want to check it out. You spend the time, you come take a look, and you figure out where the value is for you, whether that's as an investor or what opportunities just kind of exist down the road. I'm not here to sell you on anything. I'm not here to write you into a bed of lies. But what I am, look at this, hotusd, distributed finance. hotusd provides distributed small world finance systems appropriate for use in games or for communities such as the Neighborhood Mutual Aid Network. hotusd builds up upon open capability finance. This is why you tune in when I post, because I change your life. You need to start getting comfortable with looking at economic policy and different principles and theorems, because once you start studying the things that are referenced and cited to you, then you start to understand and recognize other dynamicisms within other ecosystems. So that's why sometimes when people spread fodder, they only depend on price. It's kind of ridiculous because they have no idea what different projects are integrating themselves into and what other projects will be, sharing in terms of different ecosystems. This has caught my attention. I'll definitely be looking at this and covering this at some point later on in the future. But hey, I'm just a guy who does his research. I hope that you become, more than just an individual who does the research, and you enjoy some healthy trades and some excellent gains and opportunities that you might not know about or have been privy to. I don't know how to make this stuff up, but you deserve every opportunity in life. But you got to keep your nose in the textbooks. You got to check out what's available to you. I Google everything. I got a question before I ask somebody. I'm trying to answer that. BlueSky, Twitter. Tell me what you got for me, baby. I'm pulling slot machine levers right here. You know what I mean? You got plenty of information right here. I'm not even from that part of America, but but I sound like it. You got this kind of information over here. Ooh, I wasn't trying to get all up in that sauce. I just wanted to talk crypto, but yeah, that's ooh. It was aiming to build a durable web standard that will ultimately ensure that platforms like Twitter have less centralized responsibility in deciding which users and communities have a voice on the internet. While this could protect speech from marginalized groups, it may also end up modern moderation techniques and efforts to prevent online radicalization. I'm terrible at doing accents. I just hope that somebody will hear that voice, like it, and be like, I want to use this in my animation. Hey, always be ready to earn money in all kinds of capacities. That's one thing that I've learned about crypto. There's a tremendous amount of opportunity. And the other thing I'm gonna touch on at some point, because you need to know about this stuff. You know, if you don't know, now you know. Okay. The last 3 months of FUD have all been absolutely BS. Okay. You're gonna go to trade.orionprotocol.io. Okay. I don't know how to tell you this. This is where you're gonna go. Okay. This is where you're going to go. You're going to go to trade. What you need to do is change your network to ETH. Integration in your wallet, you know, whatever. But you need ETH. And, you know, you need to switch over to there. Like, yeah. It's because you're still on BSC, so you're not going to be able to sing the rest of the song. That's that. Now let's dive into the pool. What? You could be staking 9 ORION per week. And as far as the staking approval rate, you know, the APR, you got 13.5, whether that's through MetaMask, Wallet Connect, Wallet Link, Ethereum, be 6 more. That pool will distribute to its LP in that rate. You don't know about these opportunities because guess what? You know, it's a sketchy world and / pools. The autonomy and availability of locally installed software with the power and redundancy of cloud software. Jurisdiction, again, as well for Orion Protocol, their Telegram's got 35,000 people. It's worth being patient and just wait.